and to anchor the plenary session of the platform will be no lesser personality than the Bishop of Sokoto, Father Matthew Hassan Kukah. Apparently we've saved the strongest leg for the last, perhaps, I don't know. But Bishop Kukah is the current Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto. Bishop Kukah has vast years of experience working with the church in the academia and as a respected statesman in Nigeria. He is a PhD holder from University of London School of Oriental and African Studies in 1990. He is also a Senior Rhodes Fellow at Oxford University. As a statesman, he has served notably as a member of the Human Rights Violations Investigation Commission, Federal Government of Nigeria, and chairman of the Organized Reconciliation Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together as we receive to the platform 2017 Bishop Matthew Kukah.
Thank you very much. Minister Enelama quoted the gospel so copiously, and I'm not sure how much is left for me as a priest. Let me thank my brother Poju and really associate myself with what everybody has said about how timely and how important this platform has become. You know, listening to the Honorable Minister, he's spot on some of the issues of our country. But then our obsession with photocopies, you know, we love to photocopy from elsewhere without the discipline to face the hard work. I got a message from somebody who said, you know, I grew up with my grandmother, and like all grandmothers, all these stories that will help you through life. And he said, you know, if you see a beggar, a poor person, and you laugh at him, you could become like that person. And but somebody said to me, he said, you know, my grandmother also told me the same thing. I've been looking like Aliko Dangote in the newspapers. I've tried to see Aliko Dangote. I've traveled to Lagos to see Aliko Dangote. I've laughed at him on television. I've laughed at him on the newspapers, and I'm nowhere near becoming like Aliko Dangote. But some of the issues I would like to speak to, because when Poju asked me and gave me a topic, he said I should speak on restructuring. And I said, well, I actually wanted to speak on what I call the weakness of power. Some of which Patu told me actually made reference to, and I think some of those things have also come through. But I worry about our collective cynicism, about our country, and I worry that when you speak in favor of Nigeria, Nigerians will think that either you're looking for a position or government must have offered you something. And it's a very worrying thing because we have all become obsessed, you know, with the whole idea that our country is not working, and we're the ones who are facing most of the problems of the world. Next week, I'm going to England, and I will be speaking in about 5 different cities about what is happening in Nigeria. I remain incurably optimistic because, and I will say it at the end, this is a heck of a country. It's a great country. We made all our mistakes. But I worry because I hear people say, maybe, you know, when Nigerians are frustrated, they say, you know, imagine a great country like ours, our name came from the mistress of Lugard. They say, we didn't even name ourselves. But if you live in Nigeria, you know that names have meanings, and you can always tell. You know, if you have a name like Good Luck, you know where you're likely to end up. And when you hear a woman tell you that her daughter's name is Patience, it tells you probably what she had to go through with her husband before she had her baby. But the notion, which has become very popular, that people make reference to the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who said that Nigeria is a mere geographical expression. And they think that that saying is actually original to Chief Awolowo. It isn't. Actually, that statement was made by Count Metternich, a European statesman, during a conversation about Italy. And at that time, Italy was an agglomeration of kingdoms and different kinds of societies, monarchies, and so on. And he said, Italy is simply a mere geographical expression. And this was far back in 1814. But by 1870, Italy had gotten its act together. The story is now different. I make the point to underscore the fact that, we have a lot of problems over identity, and I didn't listen to the whole lecture by my friend Egosa, Professor Egosa, over the whole question of identity. But what is also interesting about us is that we are involved, we have all embraced different kinds of identities, especially the ruling classes in Nigeria. The Yorubas, for example, call themselves what they are, but there is no word for, the word Yoruba is not a Yoruba word. Because actually the Yorubas didn't give themselves the name. The word was given to them by Ahmed Baba from Songhai. And Ahmed Baba used the word Yariba, not even the Yorubas, to describe the people who lived in what is now modern-day Oyo, Osun, Lagos, and Kwara states now. But it simply meant people living in the south, in the same way that the word Hausa is not a Hausa word. And the Hausas didn't give themselves the name. It was simply given by, again, the same Ahmed Baba who was living in Songhai. And Songhai, as you know, is in modern-day Niger. He just used the word to refer to people who are living to the south of Niger. In the same way that we are very proud, we know of a people called the Igbo people, but the Igbo people, Igbo is not an Igbo word. Because actually, Igbo is not an Igbo word. The word Igbo actually was used by the people of Onitsha, who were largely monarchical and felt a sense of contempt for other uncultured people who lived around them. So they used the word to describe others. But now it has been adopted, and of course there are people who call themselves Igbos. If you go to Kano, for example, there are words in Kano called Gwamaja and Ayagi. Ayagi words in Kano, this is where the Yorubas are. Ayagi quarters and the Gwamaja, this is where the Yorubas are predominant. There is a part of one of our senior statesmen called Tanko Yakasai. Well, again, Yakasai is actually a Jukun word. This was a word that was used by the Jukuns. Yakasai, I'm told in Jukun, means, wait, I'm coming. Because when the Jukuns conquered that part of what is now modern Nigeria, consolidating, and they just said, wait, I'm coming, and they moved on. Now it has become a name. So I will just make the point, so that we will not go away with the false illusion that there is something inherently wrong with us, because identities are often and always constructed. And that is why I think what the Honorable Minister said about the need for us to invent a new tribe. But what is also very fascinating about Nigeria is you hear people talk eloquently about being Yoruba, about being Igbo, about being Hausa, and yet majority of their children don't speak the language. And I'm not sure I know what those children are going to be called, because a lot of our young people now who are living in America, living in other places, they speak about home in reported tense. They said, Daddy said that we are from Abeokuta. It's not them who are saying it. And I think the great thing is that this is the Nigeria we should now begin to prepare for. And that Nigeria is manifesting itself before our very eyes. As a priest, most priests will tell you, and I think it's also happening in many churches, somebody has argued that actually the National Youth Service Corps is no longer necessary, it's become redundant. In part because about 6, 7 out of every 10 marriages in Nigeria are happening between people from completely different cultural backgrounds. Even my own little village that is in the middle of nowhere, I'm now saddled with Igbo in-laws, Yoruba in-laws, people I could never have imagined. So the world is moving very fast, and I think this is why the need to invent a new tribe is important. And I think that is what has happened in other settled democracies. But what are we going to use to replace tribe? The only thing we can use to replace tribe will have to be critically examined. If you live in the United States, for example, nobody needs to tell you that to be president of the United States, well, it helps to have money, as Donald Trump has demonstrated, but also before him, and I think after him, it is important to have money, but I think it's even more important to define yourself by the kind of university you went to. If you didn't go to an Ivy League university, so if we were in a more serious country, you would probably say you can't be governor of Oyo State if you didn't go to University of Ibadan. You cannot be, governor of Anambra, Imo, or Abia State if you didn't go to University of Nigeria and Nsukka. Now, the persistence of ethnicity as a tool of negotiation, which has proved to be so corrosive, lies in the fact that a lot of our people have taken identities that are largely constructed, but also largely manufactured. And that is what the sociologists talk about as the theory of relative deprivation. So a lot of our contestation, whether we call it restructuring or whatever name we may want to give to it, the truth of the matter now is that we're all just saying in different ways the levels of our perceived or so-called marginalization. Now, I don't have a choice because I have to have a view about restructuring. Unfortunately, I've listened to all the discussions, and I'm sorry that when Pastor Poju told me about this, I told him no, but I didn't imagine that the discussion or debate about restructuring was going to gather such momentum. But there are two things. There is a military mindset, which you hear reflected in the president's position. You also hear reflected in General Obasanjo's position, or the average military general. And what is also very interesting is that the president made reference to it in his speech, that he fought a civil war, to keep this country one, which is true. But my argument is actually to flip it the other side, which is that if we fought a civil war 40 years ago, and the problems for which the war was fought still persist, then something is something is wrong. In 1987 or 1988 or so, I was in the United States of America, and there was a big debate because a young American decided to burn the American flag publicly. And when he burned the flag, because naturally the president became very angry. President Bush said the young man should be arrested and should be tried for desecrating the American flag. He said that is a symbol of our freedom, and we died for that flag. And the young man responded by saying, well, actually, it is precisely because you died to secure this freedom. This is the freedom I'm expressing now. Now, it was very interesting. That was, I sat down and the argument went on for a long time. In the New York Times, there were a lot of letters from professors. Everybody seemed to have had an opinion. But the one thing I remember was a professor of law from one of the universities in America who said, look, because the question was, should this young man be tried or should he not be tried? And the professor said, listen, Mr. President, you can try this young man, but you can't try him for exercising his freedom by burning the flag. You can try him for environmental pollution. So I think now, because I hear Nigerians say we can't talk about restructuring, and then of course they talk to people and they say, well, somebody said, I've asked a lot of people, every Nigerian you ask has a different view about restructuring. Of course it is true. Every Nigerian has a different point of view about poverty. Every Nigerian has a different point of view about hunger. But are you hungry and are you poor? The language is not what is important. The issues, therefore, for which we are contesting are profound. I come from northern Nigeria. And for me, what we are facing now what the larger section of Nigeria is facing now are some of the issues that somebody like myself has been contesting for more than 30 years. It was the subject of my PhD thesis on power politics in northern Nigeria. Because I live in northern Nigeria, and I live with feudalism, not with democracy. And it is also, for me, very interesting. These are very exciting moments in Nigeria. With all the convulsion, they're very exciting moments. Because for the first time, every Nigerian is angry. The reasons may be different. The reasons may be different. But this is one of the first times, this is one of those rare times in Nigeria that all of us are angry at the same time. And Tolstoy said, a Russian writer, he said, every unhappy family is unhappy differently. So the important thing is that all of us are unhappy. And I believe that the president is unhappy because this is not the Nigerian he sacrificed for. I am happy. I'm unhappy. The beggar who is lying under the bridge is unhappy. We're all unhappy. Now, how we progress and who sacrifices what, that is the issue. But I don't think anybody who understands the dynamics of democracy should for any moment suggest that freedom of speech can be circumscribed by any stretch of the imagination. But unfortunately, we are in Nigeria, we live in Nigeria, where the only freedom that people concede to you is freedom to agree with them. And yet, democracy is about managing, these difficulties. And when you have a country like Nigeria with such incredibly gifted and brilliant people, it's a very difficult thing to teach a class of brilliant children. So anybody who wants to govern Nigeria must be prepared to cope with our anger, to cope with our very constructed and efficient argument about how things ought to be and why where we are is not where we are supposed to be. Now, what people do with that is completely different. But let me come back to the issue. Restructuring, for many people, is mathematics. Right? For the average Igbo man, you hear what the Igbos are saying, just give us one more state so that we shall be like the Yorubas. Then everything is fine. All right? Chivemeka Anyoku gave a brilliant interview in The Guardian yesterday, and I was pleased to read him. I always read people like Chivemeka Anyoku. He's an exceptionally brilliant citizen. But he made a point, very interesting. In his own argument, he said there should be 8 zones. And I'm happy with that idea, not because they may happen, but whether they happen or they don't happen, at least somebody has recognized the middle belt, because he said they should give us a zone too. So, because you see, the big boys are arguing. It's fascinating living in this country, And like I said, during the Puta panel, I was surprised that many people remembered it. I said, look, when I hear all this, the Yorubas are saying, we've never been this. The Igbos are saying, we've never been this. The Yorubas pointed different ministries that they've never headed. I said, look, where I come from, we also belong to this country. The only sign of federal presence that I saw with my eyes, the first evidence of federal presence in my village, was a vehicle that brought a dead body during the Civil War of a cousin of mine who died during the war. That was the first sign of federal government presence. At least a vehicle from the federal government came to my village. So it's therefore important but I am a gradualist. During the Puta panel, I made the point. I said, I hear all these Yoruba people, I hear all you are saying. But for me, where I come from, as at that time, in the central bank, we had one man who was a cleaner and another young lady who was a clerk. That was the representation from my ethnic group in the central bank. But I'm very proud because quite a lot has changed. Because today, it's not because my nephew is working in the central bank, but at least we have 3 or 4 other people. Now, it is that if the governing elite bothered to know about the nature of this country called Nigeria, and how and why people are hurting, then we must come to terms with the fact that we all want the same things in the final analysis. So whereas some people think that restructuring should be about mathematics, there are those who see restructuring as economics. That's what you are hearing from the National Assembly, that is saying, no, we will not accept devolution. And my worry is that the National Assembly ought not to have an opinion about this. In the sense that if you are assuming neither the president, nor the National Assembly, nor any public officer should have an opinion about this. We are the ones expressing our dissatisfaction. But at least wait to accept and process them. So if you are already telling us that the doors are closed, then we've got nothing to talk about. There are those who see restructuring as sociology. They just want every ethnic group in Nigeria now is a nation. So everybody wants a little bit of space for their nation. But finally, there are those who see restructuring purely and simply as psychology. That is, we just want to get a sense of belonging. We've been beaten by the rain. We've been standing outside. We've been excluded from power. We want to belong to this country. I don't think any sane person can quarrel with those ideas. Either way, this country has become chaotic. But you know, it reminds me of a demonstration that was taking place somewhere, and people were shouting. It was one of these demonstrations by labor. The people were shouting, and there was this woman who was panting, and she was carrying a placard. She was shouting. So a journalist went to her and said, "Madam," he said, "Yes, what is it about this demonstration that is upsetting you like this?" She said, "I don't know what they are demonstrating about, but whatever it is, I'm against it. You know, I don't know what they are debating about. I don't know whatever it is." And I think that, you know, what the minister said is quite profound, because there are people who believe that whatever the Yorubas represent in this debate, I'm against it. Whatever the Hausas or the Fulanis or the Ijos take, whatever position they take, I'm against it. But the truth of the matter is that, as I said, collectively we are all frustrated in Nigeria. The challenge now is what to do and how to process that frustration. Now, there was, the title of my presentation was to be The Weakness of Power. And I'll come to it towards the end of my presentation because I had to change my thoughts around. But really, what do we mean when we talk about power? We have notions of what power is. But of course, the mere expression of the word itself is intimidating. When people talk about being in power, especially for us in a third world country. And of course, structures also resonate. When you talk about going to the villa, when you talk about Downing Street, or when you talk about the Vatican. Now, power evokes a certain kind of emotion. But what does powerlessness do? Or what does weakness do? Weakness is the opposite of power. But as I will say at the end, which is what the Honorable Minister spoke about, because I like to speak at the end as a Christian. And how do we understand power? And what is the responsibility of power? And what does being in power and being in office really mean? Because, and I've said it here before, you know, Nigerians mistakenly think that being in office is the same as being in power, or that being in power is the same as being in office. The two things are conceptually different. You can be in power and not be in office. You can be in office and not be in power. All right? Because Pastor Poju is not a minister. But why has he been able to assemble all these people? And yet, if a politician who is holding office were to ask all these people to come, he has to pay. All right? He has to pay. He has to pay. So, because power is about influence. And like the saying goes, you know, power and leadership are about getting people to do the things they don't want to do, but also doing them happily. But to be in power, of course, being in office might help. But to be in power, you must have something that people can buy into. And this is why what the minister was saying is very important. And this, for me, as Christians, is something that we must take very seriously. What does being a Christian in public life really mean? Especially given the fact that everything in Nigeria, the president of Nigeria presides over a distribution agency, and he gives to whomever he wants. If he doesn't give us. But the truth of the matter is that we can see and we can measure how people react when others are out of power. That is, if you tie power to office. And I'll give you an example. I think President Obasanjo has traveled. I'll tell you this story. He's my very good friend. One great thing about President Obasanjo, one great thing about him is you can tell him anything. But anyway, what I'm telling you is a true story. When his wife, may God rest her soul, died, her father said to me, look, I'm going to build a church in memory of my daughter. And I've not started building the church yet, but when I finish that church, wherever you are, the date will have to fit you because I would like you to come and preach. Okay, I said, Papa, yes. So the date came, and I had to go to her hometown. And unfortunately for me, I had to get back to Kaduna, for the next day because it was on a Saturday. So, graciously, President Obasanjo was there. So when he was about to leave, he was no longer president. When he was about to leave, he sent somebody to tell me that he's leaving. So at that, I knew there was no flight out of Benin. So I said, please, can I follow you? He said, okay, you'll wait. And he waited. So anyway, he gave me a lift, came in a private plane. As we were about landing at the airport, the plane going to Kaduna was moving. I saw the plane. I turned to President Obasanjo. I said, you see, if you had been president now, there would have presidential movement. This plane would have been grounded. I said, now you are no longer president. See my plane going to Kaduna there. I'm not going to be able to get the plane. Well, Obasanjo felt sorry for me. And being the kind of person he was, he said, okay, I will pay you. I'll refund your transport money. And of course, trust him. He counted 15,000 naira and gave me. But the point. Now, the point I'm making, and please let me move on. The point I'm making is we must understand that only one person can be in office at a time. All of us will never be in office at the same time. And that following faithfully and doing our job dutifully, because each and every one of us is a leader in our own different capacities, whether it's as a father, whether it's as a head boy, or whether it's just being responsible only to yourself. So I think this is very important because it then takes us to the third point, which is when we talk about power, why does getting into office become so violent? Why has it become such a violent exercise? I remember I delivered a lecture, I think it was at the Nigerian Bar Association conference. And I said that President Jonathan was there. And I said, the president of Nigeria is the most powerful president anywhere in the world. And I could see people looking differently. But then I moved to the next point, and I said where else in the world can you as a president with just a signature make a poor man a millionaire? Just a signature. Because as president of Nigeria, frankly, a man can close his eyes and today you don't know what, you just think that an oil well is a well where they fetch. And you can become, and from nowhere you can own an oil well at the signature of the president of Nigeria. It may not happen in terms of the president of the United States of America, who is so powerful, because there are processes. So contest for power in Nigeria is not about the struggle to serve, because I always say, if you are genuinely struggling to serve, why should it just be at all cost? Really? The second point is the question of preparedness for public leadership in Nigeria. Now, the issue is addressed by James in the book of James, chapter 4, where James says, all these troubles, where do they come from? Where do all these problems come from? James says, they come from our greed. You want something, you cannot get it, you are prepared to kill. And James goes on and says, you pray for something and you don't get it. Why is it that when you pray for something, you don't get it? He said, you pray for something, you don't get it because you know already that your prayer is for self-satisfaction. And that when you say the Lord's Prayer, you just say, God our Father in heaven, I hope that your will in heaven corresponds to my will here on earth. And this is why, you know, when we hear stories from other places, we think that somehow these things will work in Nigeria. You know, there was a case of a man who, he said two friends went on a Friday evening, and they went to a beer parlor and they drank. And among beer drinkers, I heard, they said that if you drink Golda and you get very drunk, just wake up, start with a bottle of Golda, it will clear your head. Don't try it because I'm not sure it is true. But anyway, these two friends later on decided to clear their head. So they sat down and started drinking. Then one friend turned to the other and said, oh boy, you know, last night my head, it was as if they were beating drum inside. And then there was a madman passing by. And the madman heard them. He said, you know, as if my head would break. So the madman went close to them. He said, Oga, your head, was it doing like from here to here? So the man looked at the madman and said, how do you know? He said, Oga, I saw my own start. So, you know, things are not often as easy as they look. Things are not often as easy as they look. But I think that perhaps the greater part of the challenge that we face now, as I said, we admit that we are all angry. But the question is, how do we process this anger? And here, I heard somebody say, I think it was Shegun Adeni, whose paper was on, is he around here? Because I actually wanted to accuse Shegun of hate speech. I heard him claiming that he's an indigene of this place. That's what he said in the morning. I just want to let him know, because when people begin to claim indigenship like that, after some time they will give us quit notice without. So please let Shegun know that he's not the only indigene of this place. But the point I'm making is, where we are now, anything can go wrong. And I just have a few examples. Because we are at a tipping point. And I'll give you an example. Something happened to me personally on the 16th of September. And it's troubling. I will share the story with you. I was with my driver, and we were going to Bauchi for the ordination of the new bishop of Bauchi, new Catholic bishop of Bauchi. And right in front of us, this trailer coming, it missed a pothole, and it was coming right at us. My driver tried to swing up. We had a bus in front of us. The bus managed to swing, but because the trailer turned this way and that way, the side of the trailer touched the bus. 14-seater bus. It somersaulted. The second somersault took it into the ditch. The third somersault, I saw people flying out. And I was rushing because the ordination was taking place that morning. So I pulled over. I told my driver to pull over. My body was shaking because as I saw 3 or 4 people flying out of the bus, I worried because I said I didn't think we were going to find anybody alive. But we went into the ditch. And before I got to the ditch, it was in a predominantly Muslim village, because I know the village, called Babale, as you're going to Bauchi. Most of the people in that village are Muslims. And they all rushed across with their jalabiyas, you know, and there are some people, Babariga, everybody, they all rushed across. And they went into the ditch. When I got down, I discovered that from the wrapper of the women, they had come from, what do you call it, from Owerri, and they were going to Bauchi for the ordination. And they were from a parish where the bishop to be ordained had been working. Now, imagine that these Hausa people there were struggling, and with them, we took out these 13 people who were in the bus. Except the driver, all of them were Igbos. Now, imagine that if somebody had snapped a photograph of this, let me use the word, these Muslims taking out these people, and there had been a writing on the bus to say that the bus was from Owerri. And somebody took a picture and posted the picture and said, the killing has started. See Hausa people killing Igbos. I make the point because we are on a very, very dangerous precipice. And we must therefore be careful. I went to Sarajevo about 5 years ago for a conference. And I was lucky, I physically went to where Archduke Ferdinand was stabbed on the 28th of June, 1914. If you go to Sarajevo, you see the place. In fact, that day, Nigeria was playing, was it Bosnia, during the World Cup. Well, I saw the place. And as you know, the First World War started over the story of the stabbing of Archduke Ferdinand. Nobody bothered for other details. It turned out to be a signal. On the 28th of June, 1989, Ivan Stambolic asked Milosevic, Slobodan Milosevic, to go to Kosovo and address the Serbians. And the Serbians were marking a war that they fought with the Ottoman Empire in 1389, the 600th anniversary of that war. Milosevic got to the venue. 1 million Serbs gathered. And Milosevic told them, from today, nobody else is going to slap you. Now, the speech that Milosevic delivered, you can Google it, you find it on Google, is the most passionate speech. But it ignited sentiments and set the pace for the killings that started and led to the Serbian war. Many of you remember a young man called Valentin Strasser, who was president of, you remember? President of where? Sierra Leone. You remember him? They had a president called Joseph Momo, who was a retired general. Now, Joseph Strasser became president at the age of 25. And they were fighting the rebels. And the story was that they just, a few of them, young boys, they just went to the presidential to ask for salaries. I was told he was a very good dancer and so on. They just wanted a bit of, life. They got there, the president got frightened, left, they took over, and at the age of 25, he became president. Very interesting because I make the point that nobody knows what will trigger off what. On the 6th of April, 1994, this was when the famous shooting of the aircraft happened in Rwanda. The airplane carrying, President Habyarimana and the president of Burundi. It sparked off the Rwandan genocide. February 27, 1933, it is alleged that actually Hitler had a hand in the burning of the Reichstag, which was the German parliament. But the burning of that building, when they were having a party in the house of Goebbels. And when Hitler was told that the Reichstag was on fire, the first thing he said was, it must be the communists. It marked the beginning of the killing of the communists, then the killing of the trade union, then finally the killing of the Jews. And that is why in German history, for the responsibility of the church, you remember the saying of one of our priests who said, when Hitler first came, he came for the communists and I didn't speak up because I was not a communist. Then he came for the trade unionists, I didn't speak up because I was not a trade unionist. Then he came for the Catholics, I didn't speak up because I was not a Catholic. By the time Hitler came for me, after he came for the Jews, there was nobody left to speak for me. The question is, we cannot begin to deploy hatred because, you see, you notice that before every killing, you have to so reduce the humanity of the other that it justifies whatever you have to do. It was easy for the people of Rwanda, for the Hutus to start killing the Tutsis, because already the media had already characterized the Tutsis as cockroaches. That was the name they had for them. It is easy for us to deploy hatred across the country. If you ask the Yoruba, there's a joke, and the joke has many versions. He said that there was an accident somewhere in Ogbomoso, and the they made one Alabi. So Alabi, the police said, Alabi, did you see this accident? He said, yes. Was the accident fatal? Alabi said, what will be fatal, sir? He said, like people die? He said, no, people will not die. But only 3 Gambari die, but people will not die. You can turn that story upside down, you know. But the point I'm making is that it is very easy for us as a country to get to that point. But again, so how should power be used for the betterment of our society? Again, you know, when Jesus says, and for us as Christians, it is important that we understand the meaning of Christianity. Because Christianity is not like any other religion. I'm not talking about superiority of, or even comparative religion. I'm not talking about superiority of religions. But Christianity isn't just like any other religion. Because it's a religion that triumphs in the worst things that we can think about. Which kind of religion will celebrate death? Which kind of religion will ascribe to the kind of thing Jesus was talking about? When he says, blessed are the poor in spirit, the kingdom of heaven belongs to them. If you are slapped on one cheek, turn the other. Pray for your enemies. Carry no money. Imagine, you know, when Jesus says to the apostles, he said, you are taking the gospel to all the ends of the earth. And then the next thing Jesus says to them, first of all, they have no idea where is the end of the earth. And I've often said to myself, if I were a follower of Jesus, I would have said, Oga, if you wanted this thing to go to the end of, you are going away now, you are telling us, where is the end of the earth? But then, the next thing Jesus says to them is, because of, if you are going from here to Abeokuta, what you need to carry is not the same as somebody going from here to Sokoto, especially if you are going on foot. Now, Jesus says, go to the end of the world. And while these people are preparing a business plan and how to mobilize resources, Jesus says to them, carry no money, carry no haversack. You know, these are the distortions, let me put it that way, in human terms, and the contradictions of Christianity. And that is why when we speak about the power of weakness, I use 2 examples, apart from the Lord Jesus Christ. I use the story of Mother Teresa, who, as you know, lived in India, started her life as a nun. By the time she started her mission, she didn't have any pay. She didn't have the resources. But guess what? When she died, the funeral procession was 5 kilometers long. She's about the only woman, apart from our Blessed Mother, that even the Pope had to call, refer to as mother. She didn't measure herself by the kind of things that she had. So, by way of conclusion, let me just try and see if we can round up. By way of conclusion, what is the way forward? For us as Christians, we now have to speak about leadership. This is the only country where people get into power purely by accident, and I can run the numbers for you. We can, if you take it mathematically, there's nothing, I'm not inventing anything. I'm not denigrating anybody. President Buhari had said, I don't want again. Okay? He said he didn't want to be president again. He was literally pulled out. He took over from President Jonathan. I believe President Jonathan was content being deputy governor or governor. Obasanjo went and said, come. And then he took over, it was with Yaradua. Yaradua had already received an application to Ahmadu Bello University to go and teach chemistry. They asked him, no, come back and be president. All right, these are verifiable facts. Yaradua took over from President Obasanjo. Obasanjo was in prison in Yola. They went and brought him and said, come and be president. Okay. You can go through from the beginning to end. Now, Obasanjo took over from General Abdul Salam. General Abdul Salam's paper for retirement to be signed by Abacha were on the table of Abacha before Abacha died. Now, I'm not saying, whether you go back to Shagari or you go back to the military or whatever, Shagari said, I want to be senator. He said, no, come and be president. The point is that we cannot do the same things and expect a different outcome. Leadership is a pretty serious business. And this is why when the minister talks about inventing a new tribe, it's a very important point. If you look at other countries in the world, The most educated president in the whole world is, do you know who he is? It's Mugabe. Mugabe has 7 degrees that he worked for, 11 honorary degrees he had. Yeah. Yes, please, thank you. That's him there, you know, and I think you should, where is, you see, these are the age brackets of African, this is what we have in Africa, okay? These are the ages. This is what we have in Africa, all right? Look at the generation. Now, so when Nigerians talk about the fact that the age to be president has gone up to, is it 30? No, what we should be concerned about is the age, is to bring down the age and agree, you know, that somehow there is a correlation between the science of power. As you can see, Li Ping, for example, the president of China, got a PhD in chemistry. Angela Merkel got a PhD in quantum physics, quantum chemistry. Almost every, I'm saying these things don't happen by accident, but going forward, and by way of conclusion, what kind of manpower should we be generating? This is the only country where we think if anything has gone wrong, it's because of our president. If anything has gone wrong, it's because of, but leadership doesn't work like that. The Chinese, for example, every year produce 4.7 million engineering students. Okay? What they call STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. India has produced about 2.6. The United States of America, miserable 500 and something. But we have to begin to measure the kind of manpower that we must deploy into the system if our country is going to develop. You know, there was a madman who saw a parade going on, because you ask yourself, what do people want to do with their lives? The madman saw the police, they were marching. Then he now started following them. So the police, the man who was commanding the police, he looked at him. The man was following them. He said, you want to join police? The madman looked at him and said, are they crazy? Let me end by finally, Nigerians, we've got every reason to be angry, but please let us remember, for the sake of this country, a lot of our citizens have given their lives to defend this country. As soldiers, they have died and they are still dying. It is a reason why we must take very seriously the issue of building a new country together. That challenge is before all of us. And that is why our hearts may be broken, our bodies may be broken, we may be frustrated. But I leave you a very nice song. You know, Don Williams died this year. But one of the songs he sang, one of my favorite, I always sing the response. He said, some broken hearts never mend, some memories never end, some tears will never dry, my love for you will never die, our love for Nigeria will never die. This is our country, this is God's gift for us, this is God's gift for us. Obama told the Americans, remember, Obama said to the Americans, yes, we can, but because we are Nigerians and we won't go anywhere, we will stay here, we will work, we will redeem this country. Obama said to Americans, yes, we can. I said to Nigerians, yes, we must. No. For us, for the Americans, Obama said, yes, we can. For us in Nigeria, yes, we must. Because Ahmed Cesar said, a man from Martinique, a scholar from Martinique, who actually claimed to be an Igbo man, but he said, in the rendezvous of victory, there is room for each and every one of us. Let us pray, because that day is nearer to us than we ever imagined. Thank you very much, and God bless you.